Okay, so French politics, right? Lately, it's been like a reality show finale, just constant drama.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And of course, Marine Le Pen, right there in the middle of it all.
Hmm.
And recently, I should say her legal situation. It's,
It's got everyone talking, that's for sure.
it really does. And that's actually why you're here.
Hmm.
You sent us this piece, Marine Le Pen does a job interview in prison by Stephen Pincourt.
Yes, that's right.
And like, if you're expecting like some boring, dry legal analysis, I've got to warn you, this isn't it.
No, you're right. This is a different kind of depth dive.
Pincourt, he's got a very, how should I put it, unique take.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Yes. Unconventional, maybe.
So the mission here, if you choose to accept it, and I think you already have since you're listening, is we're going to dive into Pincourt's perspective on all this Le Pen stuff, but not just like the straight facts, okay?
Yeah.
We're going to look at what he thinks it all means.
Yes, and we're going to do it in a way that's hopefully fun, interesting, and most importantly, makes you think.
Yeah.
And maybe laugh a little bit, too.
Exactly. So we're going to look at the courtroom scene. Pincourt sets up the whole thing with a verdict, all through his eyes, his voice.
And Pincourt doesn't just focus on Le Pen, Through his lens, we end up looking at ourselves, at everyone, really. It's like he's holding up a mirror.
Oh, he definitely is. Okay, so let's talk about this courtroom scene. Pincourt doesn't hold back. He really sets the stage, almost like it's a play. I mean, Judge Benedict Dupertuis, he describes her robe like it's fluttering like a death sentence in the breeze of a metaphorical guillotine square.
Right. Not exactly your typical courtroom description.
I mean, what do you make of that kind of imagery? It's intense.
He's going for shock value right from the start. And with the guillotine, he's immediately making the courtroom feel like a place of judgment, but also a very dramatic, almost theatrical one. And it's like he's saying that, yeah, this is serious, but there's also something absurd about it all.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And then you've got Le Pen herself sitting there on the defendant's bench. Pincourt, he doesn't mince words, calling her blonde, stubborn, and morally more flexible than a yoga guru on speed.
He's not pulling any punches?
No. So what's the deal with that description?
I think he's trying to set a tone, right? He's basically saying, don't expect any moral high ground here.
Yeah.
It's like he's already seeding doubt about Le Pen's integrity.
Okay, that makes sense. And then he gets to the actual charges against her, right?
Right,
He calls
this-
it le crime à la crème, which sounds almost, I don't know, cute for something as serious as embezzlement and misuse of EU funds.
Yeah, it's almost like he's making fun of it.
So why use that kind of playful language for such heavy accusations?
I think he's playing with expectations. By making it sound light, almost silly, he's kind of highlighting how common these kinds of scandals are in politics. It's like he's saying, this is just business as usual, but in a very cynical way.
Right. And then the sentence itself. 5 years without voting rights, 2 years in prison with an ankle bracelet, and a fine that Pincourt says won't even cover half a Botox retreat in Saint-Tropez. I mean, ouch.
That's a pretty pointed remark.
It is.
Yeah.
So what's he getting at with that Botox thing? It seems almost random.
I think it's his way of mocking, like he's saying that this fine, it's meaningless to someone like Le Pen. It highlights the disconnect between her world and, the average person's.
Okay, so we've got the scene, we've got the charges, we've got the sentence. And then comes the really weird part.
You mean when Le Pen just walks out?
Yeah. Before the verdict is even fully read, she's gone. Pincourt says it's like she suddenly realized in the middle of this job interview for the presidency that she doesn't even know the login to her own morals.
It's a bold interpretation, to say the least.
It is. I mean, do you think he's right? Or are there other ways to read that moment?
There are definitely other interpretations. Maybe it was a power move, a way of showing she doesn't care what the court says. Or maybe she just panicked, who knows. But Pincourt's take is definitely the most, how do I say, dramatic.
And it fits his style.
Exactly. It's like he's saying she's so morally bankrupt, she doesn't even recognize it herself.
Okay, so then Pincourt does something really interesting. He turns the whole thing around, and suddenly he's talking directly to the reader, to you listening right now. Now, the chair is yours, Anne, he says. It's like we went from this big political drama to something very personal, very quickly.
That's a clever way to make you think about your own life, your own choices.
And then he drops this line, I bet you haven't had a new thought in 3 years? One that wasn't about lunch or what kind of ice cream they make out of dish soap these days. I mean, that's a pretty harsh statement.
He's trying to shake you up, make you question if you're really living a thoughtful life.
And then he goes on to list these really common things people say about themselves, like I'm empathetic or I'm a good listener. But Pincourt calls it all a bad joke.
Yeah, he's not buying it.
So why is he so cynical about these seemingly positive qualities?
Because he thinks we often say these things without really meaning them. It's like we're trying to convince ourselves we're good people without actually doing the work. And he specifically calls out our online lives, like our browser history and WhatsApp messages. He's saying that's where the real you is, not in those nice sounding phrases.
And it's not just online stuff, right? He brings up affairs, bot followers, even that funny but kind of sad anecdote about the cucumber.
He's really trying to drive home this point about how we deceive ourselves and how those little lies can add up to something bigger.
And then he compares life to this interrogation under the spotlight, but the people doing the questioning, they're not cops or lawyers.
Yeah.
He says it's your old flings, your failed dreams, and even an algorithm that's already ghosted you 3 times. It's a pretty strange mix of judges.
Yeah, it is. But it also kind of makes sense, right? We are constantly being judged, not just by authority figures, but by our past, our aspirations, even the technology we use.
And the questions they're asking, he says, aren't about whether you were nice. It's about whether you were true, whether you were real. And that last one, was it so damn exaggerated we had to laugh, cry, or puke? It's pretty intense.
He's setting a high bar.
He is. So how do we even survive this constant job interview of life?
Well, that's where his "what qualifies you" monologue comes in. The first thing he says, lie about being fine. Admit your failures.
Wait, so he's saying we should just lie?
No, he's pointing out how often we do that already, how we put on this fake confidence. He's saying, let's skip that part and be honest about the struggles.
Okay, so it's more like acknowledging the lie. And the failures, he calls them frequent flyer miles. It's almost like he's saying our mistakes are part of some journey.
Right, exactly. It's about the experience we gain, even from the things that don't go as planned.
But then he goes on to say, I don't have the answers, but I keep fucking asking. There's a shift there, right? It's not just about dwelling on the failures.
Exactly. It's about that drive to keep going, to keep learning, even when things are tough. And it leads into this incredibly powerful statement. I won't stop until I stand on that stage and say the one thing no one's ever heard from me. I'm here, I'm staying, and I bite back.
Wow. That is powerful. What do you make of that?
It's a statement of resilience, of refusing to give up. It's saying, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm not going to be pushed around. And that last part, I bite back, adds this element of defiance, of strength.
Okay, so Pinkwart takes us through this whole self-reflection journey. And then he circles back to Le Pen. But he says something really shocking. Le Pen isn't the enemy. She's the symptom, like herpes on Europe's political body.
Yeah, that's quite an image.
It is. So what's he
Yeah.
trying to say with that comparison? It's so provocative.
I think he's trying to move beyond just blaming Le Pen as an individual. He's saying she's a product of a larger problem, of something deeper going on in European politics. The herpes analogy, while crude, suggests that this problem keeps coming back, that it's not easily solved.
Then he makes this connection between Le Pen's flaws and the reader's own flaws. He says, you both fact things up. Disappointed people lied to yourselves.
He's putting Le Pen and the reader on the same level, in a way.
Why do you think he does that? It's such a bold move.
I think he's trying to show that we're all human, that we all make mistakes. Even someone like Le Pen, who might seem so different from us, she struggles with the same things we do.
Okay, but then he points out the difference. Le Pen makes it onto ballots, while we might struggle just to get out of bed some days.
It's like he's acknowledging the scale is different, but the core issues are the same.
But there is a difference in outcome, right? Le Pen gets the ankle monitor, while the reader, Pinkwart says, gets a second chance because you can still write.
It's an interesting contrast. He's saying that while Le Pen faces legal consequences, the reader has the power to learn and grow from their mistakes through writing. It's like writing becomes this tool for self-improvement, for change.
And that leads him to recommend Poetry Master Poesy Craft in 7 to Taken. This poetry guide he describes as barbed wire with a ribbon. That's a pretty vivid and kind of violent image for a book about poetry.
He's not talking about your typical flowery poetry. He's advocating for something raw, something with an edge. It's about taking those difficult experiences, those painful truths, and shaping them into something powerful.
He says you need this book like a politician needs immunity, which ties it back to the political theme in a cynical but kind of funny way. And then he goes on to call it a damn literary Molotov cocktail that teaches you how to blow up a poem with your biography. I mean, that's some pretty intense marketing.
He's definitely not holding back. But I think the message is clear. He wants you to use your life, your experiences, even the bad ones, to create something that has impact, something that shakes things up. He's saying, don't be afraid to be bold, to be honest, even if it's uncomfortable.
And then he asks this really challenging question. You want to write a piece so loud it calls Le Pen back into the courtroom.
It's like he's daring the reader to create something that can truly make a difference.
Okay, and finally there's the PS, where he says he doesn't really care who got indicted in France, and that we're all so obsessed with the news because our own lives are boring. It's a bit cynical, but also kind of thought-provoking.
He's making a point about our media consumption, are we really so interested in these public scandals, or are we just trying to distract ourselves from our own lives? It's a question worth asking ourselves.
So to sum up this wild ride of a piece, Pinkwart takes us from Le Pen's courtroom drama to a much deeper exploration of self-deception, failure, and the power of finding your voice. It's definitely not your typical political commentary.
It's definitely not. It's more like a personal challenge disguised as a satirical takedown. He's using Le Pen as a springboard to make us think about our own lives, our own choices, and our own potential for creative expression.
And that brings us to the question we leave you with today. How much of our fascination with people like Marine Le Pen is really just a reflection of our own desire for something more, for some kind of excitement or meaning in our own lives? What's your stage, and what are you waiting for to stand on it and speak your truth?
That's a great question to ponder. It's about finding that thing that drives you, that makes you want to bite back at life and make your mark on the world.
Well, Stephen, that was a deep dive unlike any other. Thanks for joining me on this journey through Pinkwart's mind.
It was my pleasure. Always enjoy a good dose of Pinkwart's unique brand of cynicism.
And to you, our listeners, thanks for sticking with us through this whirlwind of ideas. Until next time, keep those minds churning, and maybe even pick up a pen and see what kind of loud piece you can create.
Until next time.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.